George, where's the A to C converter?
A to C converter?
Yeah.
Though I thought I just handed it to you.
Well, you gave me the box part, not the.
Oh, it folds into there.
Oh. Oh, look at that. Okay, thank you.
Because it's also a, if we unplug the audio too, it's got the audio. Yeah, it's also a HDMI converter and a USB port.
Wow.
And it seems like something else. Oh, it's a Ethernet. It's 4 things in one.
4 things in one.
So it's easier for them to.
How?
Yeah. Right. Kansas Library service that you provide where all the websites are almost all of them in Kansas.
All right, so during our final break, or actually our morning break today, we're going to go through part 3 of the live installation. You have to eat the mic.
You might have to, it's hard to hear you. Or you know what? Sorry.
How about that? Now. Now.
I think the battery is dead. I'll talk to Jill about this. You have to hold it.
Now.
There you go.
All right. How's that? Better?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So yesterday we saw parts 1 and 2 of this live installation demo, and much to my delight and surprise, nothing exploded on me. How do we know we were successful? Because when we ended part 2 yesterday, over port 80, that is to say the standard HTTP port, we ended up with a message saying the Koha server was offline, and over port 8081, which I've got configured in this installation to reflect staff level access, we saw the Koha web install. So far, so good, and I'm glad to report that everything and all of the typing I had to do yesterday was successful. So, the web installer, that's great. What's the password? You need to be able to get the password in order to be able to use the web installer, and we'll go back into SSH just for a moment to go retrieve that password from the configuration file. Here comes the command, which is going to be the most typing I have to do in this, thank God. All right, that all looks correct. It's going to search a very specific file that's referenced as the last parameter here for the sequence of parameters that you see. With any luck, if I've typed this all correctly, you will see a 16-character password, which should end in an ampersand. Not an ampersand, the accent. And of course, it helps too if you type the password correctly. There it is. I'm going to write this down, and at least I'm using a font here where my ones look like ones, my L's look like L's, my O's look like O's, and my zeros look like zeros, I think.
So John, first, this is going to be a part of all your instruction sets, right? That they can find online?
That is correct, yes.
Not a command left out.
All right, let me make sure I got this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Let's see if I actually got it right. They're going to the web installer. Your username is koha underscore in the name of your instance. So for me, it was koha underscore library. And now let's see. Capital M, capital X.
You can copy and paste it.
Not from that. It's a simple, stupid little putty thing. R, K, Q, T, L, V, F, U, 0, P, O, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right. Let's see if I did this right. Of course not. Yay. That's right. U, 0, O. All right, that looks great. Yay! All right. We're at installer. Just like with the operating system installation, there's just a lot of accepting things here. The system's going to go through a number of system checks to make sure the SQL tables and SQL is installed properly. I've selected English as an installation language. It checks for Perl dependencies. It looks at the database settings. Hey, look, I've established a connection to the database, and I've determined that all of the required privileges are there. Now we're going to actually go ahead and create the tables.
It's just a coincidence.
This is the step that takes a little bit longer than most. One other step in here where we install some optional data. Database tables created, some basic configuration. What flavor of mark do you want? Most of us here are going to pick Mark 21. Unimark being used mostly over in Europe. Now comes to the part where we have some mandatory things as well as some optional settings. I've always wondered why they include the mandatory ones if they're mandatory, but I don't write the code and I don't maintain it, so I don't question it. When it comes to what I select for the test instances I run, I almost always select the ones with default matching rules as well as some simple div frameworks. And for other data, some basic default authorized values, CSV profile, holding statements, relators, and then finally, B3950 servers and iType. I've usually found it helpful to always select the authorized values one, but never select sample libraries because all I have to do is delete all those libraries anyway, and that doesn't seem to make any sense. So I'm going to go ahead and import all of these options, and then go back to the slide.
Brad and John are going to talk about running their own system.
Based on the defaults that I selected and the tables that I've had pre-populated, even after this, we're still going to need to define a few things. A very basic library name and code, as well as a patron category and code for the initial or staff super user, as well as one very easily changeable circulation rule. All right, it tells us which tables have been loaded. There was a very recent change. I think it happened with either 1905 or 1811. You used to see a lot of these very Greek mnemonic type names for all of the options. Now you only see them upon the confirmation screen. Basic installation complete. Almost, but not quite. We have to set up those few things. We'll go ahead now and start onboarding. This part got a lot easier in recent releases. It used to have to be that you had to log into your actual system using that same super username and password, and then create a library, and then create this, and then create that, all while keeping this very destructive super user alive and active in your system. With these recent changes, you don't have to do that anymore. Library code and name, both required. Notice that it tells you where to go within the system. If you're brand new to the system, you're not going to have any idea where to go. These now tell you where you can go to define more libraries, to define more patron categories, and to define more circulation rules. Create a patron category. I just called it super users, and you have to define an enrollment period. Now I have to define the super user itself. Notice that the library and patron categories are predefined from what you just filled out. And I've just created the staff user with an administrator login. Circulation, you can leave all of this as is. Congratulations, you have finished and are ready to use Koha. From OS to first login, watch, I just probably typed the password wrong twice. There we are, first login. More about Koha. We're running 19.05.03. Notice that black has been deployed by default because of some of the Apache commands that I ran. Memcached is automatically turned on now. You used to have to define that separately and define a whole bunch of ports in that. You don't have to do that anymore. That's automatic. This is your screen that tells you everything that you need to know. So now you can start using Koha. So yay, we did it from operating system installation to a first login. What about now? Well, we've all got backup files that we have. I don't know whether you all know this or not. Koha actually runs a backup and creates tar files of itself every night. 2 files, one of your data and one of your system preferences, and it stores them in a very specific location that's to untar those files or unzip those files. Then a sequence of commands, they're package commands actually, I believe it's Koha restore, that allows you to explode those into your tables and your databases. But if you're going between versions, you have to run a command, a very special command, Koha upgrade schema, to make sure that all of your tables change automatically. When you do an upgrade as an unsupported site, this happens, this command is issued automatically. But if you're doing what I'm doing and you're bringing in data and the system notices a discrepancy between what you're bringing in and what you're doing, you have to run this command in order to bring everything up to date. You could conceivably run the web installer again and it would do this, but I will guarantee over a certain number of records, your web installer will time out and you'll have a very unusable system. Or if it does work, it might not work as you expect. Running this command line command will actually get everything working and you don't have to worry about your web browser timing out on you. I developed this documentation about 1.5 years ago, and it works in terms of everything that you can do through the web-based Koha interface. As an unsupported site, I use my SQL Workbench to go edit my tables sometimes, and that's where I'm running into issues with how passwords are kept or how I can get into the same tables that I can get to my production using my SQL Workbench. I seem to have a problem doing it in development if I try the exact same setup. So I'm not quite sure what I'm not doing right there, but I haven't also really had time to explore it. So the installation documentation is all set. It's this beyond part 3 stuff where I'm trying to explode the data. That works, but getting to it from certain interfaces, so not the web interface, which will work flawlessly, is where I'm having a little bit of a problem. So I will be here through the end of today. It saddens me greatly that I will not be here for the workshop days because I love those days. But you are always free to call me. Actually, don't call. I never answer my phone. I hate talking on the phone. But email me, jsturban@unich.edu. You can note my phone number if you want. The UMich address is much better than my official Koha address. So thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you found some of this from the beginning, literally, to the end, valuable. And thank you for your attention and your time. And now you get to hear me talk again.
They've got a 5-minute break.
Oh,
You finished.
this ran early? Woo! Woo! Thank you, Todd.
You want to use your website?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Could you bring up the browser and then go to, so we can stream it. If you go to koha-US, that's the easiest way. And then give me the calendar. Here, I can set up the screen. So that video is going to be posted right now. No, we haven't. We already went back.
Because it was in parts and I figured, hey.
But the instructions.
The instruction set will be, once I've got it cleaned up, it will replace my existing instruction set that is under learn to grow.
And once, if you send the slide.
And yeah, you'll get the slides.
I'm using, we just piled John's laptop.
Okay.
Just hardwired.
Absolutely. Oh, my friend Kathy's gonna watch.
Apparently. I told her when I was presenting. So when you're ready to start, all you do is start your slides first, and then click on share, and then everything you do on the screen here will not only be up here, but it'll also be on the Zoom. So all you got to do is share, and then start your slides.
I'm gonna start my slides. I'm trying to think. When I teach, I do an extend. Right now I'm doing a duplicate because that's what I needed. If I do a share, oh, but then can they, I don't know, can they see me? If I'm doing a share and just have the slides up there? No? All right, then this it is.
Okay. Do it however you like. And if you need your microphones, I've got batteries. I put batteries in this microphone. I left the battery pack here in case we do it again. But all you got to do is turn this. If Fred wants his own microphone, you can turn this one on. Just hit the power button.
Let me.
Try copying my slides here.
No worries.
Fred, John, I wish you guys would talk about something more exciting.
Let's go ahead. Oh my. Let's see. What's the worst that can happen? It's a work laptop. It's only 3 months old. That's all right. They'll buy me a new one.
Your friend Kathy says hi, John, in the chat.
Hi, Kathy. All right. Let me go here and then let me do a. All right. George, is it time to start?
I'll
All
do
right.
this one. It's 10 minutes left.
What's that?
10 minutes left.
Oh, until that's
No, that's what I'll do when you've got
Oh.
10 minutes left.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Sturbins, Manager of Electronic Collections Administration at the University of Michigan's Kresge Library Services. How small are we? We don't even call ourselves a full library anymore, just Kresge Library Services. It's my pleasure to be joined by Fred King, who will introduce himself because I can never remember his organization, which is not all that complicated, as we talk about running systems unsupported and how you are not on your own. We'll talk a little bit about our backgrounds, our education, our institutions, why we went with Koha in an unsupported mode like we did, as well as some things for people to think about, and we expect that we will have time for questions. So let me go ahead and call Fred up and he'll introduce himself.
Okay, I am Fred King, medical librarian at MedStar Washington Hospital Center in DC. We actually have books, but not many. I probably have more at home. And I will tell you a little bit more about myself in the library when I get to my presentation. I think this isn't going to be so much an official presentation, but more like an ad-lib Bob and Ray sketch. And I'm not very good at ad-libbing. I don't know about it.
I'm really good at living, but usually only in the evening when I can be disgusting. All right, so.
Daylight outside.
Oh, a little bit about me and my education and career. Like a lot of people in librarianship, I never really planned on becoming a librarian. I fell backwards into librarianship when really nothing else seemed to be working out. It's kind of horrible to say about my profession choice, but that's the way it is. But in terms of what I wanted to do within libraries, I always knew I wanted to focus on technical services and systems. That's what most of my coursework in library school was geared to. That's what I made my specialization when I got my master's degree was, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to, with the notable exception of occasional reference, which is now rather constant reference, have been able to do that as a librarian for the past 22 years. Ooh, I gotta get rid of, there's something blocking my nose. Gotta get rid of that. So I'm really self-trained because when I went to library school in the mid-1990s, there really wasn't a whole lot of systems administration courses yet. They certainly couldn't teach you anything on turnkey systems. And there really weren't a lot of programming classes offered. There really was no coursework on systems administration, at least not offered by the library school. It's possible that there may have been courses offered maybe in the Department of Computer Science or the College of Engineering, but those courses weren't really open to me. And I'm sure that if they did have those types of classes, guess what? They were lower level classes. You wouldn't be able to take those types of courses as a graduate student. One of the things that I have been fortunate enough to do was run our innovative system, which was our previous system for 17 of its 23 years. And I like to say that I made a really good turnkey systems administrator because I was able to translate between what people wanted and what innovative needed to hear in order to be able to get things done. I had some programming. I learned BASIC when I was in 5th grade, knew more than my high school teacher, so they passed me out of BASIC in high school, and I took Pascal. The college Pascal class I took was less complicated than the high school one. And there were other classes in the computer science department that I could have taken as cognitive, but I was more interested in statistics, thinking I was going to become a biostatistician or somebody affiliated with the actuarial sciences. So I never really took any additional computer programming as an undergrad. In grad school, there wasn't all that much either. I'd taken a single semester of Java programming, and that was really pretty much it. About the library, from 1925 to 2013, we were either the Business Administration Library or the Kresge Business Administration Library. In 14 months, we saw the complete removal of our collections. And if you were in Portland last year, you may remember the joke I told about the revised disaster plan that I wrote. That was not a joke. I actually did rewrite the disaster plan, and it ended with, note, not everyone will have a book. In 2014, we reemerged as Kresge Library Services with exactly 216 non-circulating books. Further restoration and renovation of our space has halved it yet again. We don't even have any bookshelves anymore, and now we have exactly 20 books that sit on a half of a shelf of a single book truck. On the plus side, I can take inventory, and it will only take 2 seconds. For automation, Innovative was actually our first automation company, starting with Innopac in '92 and migrating over to Millennium over in 2000. We ran everything because we did everything. All of the standard functions, plus we had Innovative's ERM module as well. Over the course of those 14 months from 2013 to 2014, we went from $150,000 to nearly nothing. Well, guess what? We didn't need CAD, we didn't need circulation, we didn't need acquisition, we didn't need serial, we didn't need authority. All of that stuff we didn't need anymore, and so it seemed kind of silly to continue on with a maintenance agreement with Innovative when they clearly had no intention of keeping us on as an ERM-only customer. We needed none of these things in our new reality, and so that's what got us thinking. So I started looking at options. I looked at a few of the proprietary options that were still there, and we ended up picking Koha when all was said and done. We run 2 servers at Kresge, both are identically configured, and we try to keep on top of the releases as they come out. The first efforts though went all the way back to 2014 and were rather disastrous. There was no unified documentation. That documentation was not dated. I didn't know that much about the system yet, so I had no idea whether what I was looking at was current or not. It wasn't. And so I found 3 separate sets of instructions that I kind of cobbled together into one document. Yes, 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 fail. Oh, okay, back up. Yes, 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 fail. This happened for about 2 months. Again, mashing and putting all this stuff together, because quite honestly, I had never really worked this extensively within Linux before, and I really had no idea what I was doing. But then I took a month off, and in January 6th of 2015, I got this. Oh, look at this. As I say on Facebook, it's something, which is better than nothing, i.e. the other times that I attempted to do this 2 months ago. I had no idea, because of the poorness of the documentation at the time, that this actually meant success. Great! How do I get to the staff side? I knew I had to find 8081 from the staff port. That much I didn't know I had done right. How do I log in? I don't know. So it sat like this for a month, but this would have been abandoned anyway. And then finally, 10 months later, why 10 months? Imagine this is the most important thing I do. Now go all the way down to the ground floor. Now dig a hole 10 feet deep. At the bottom of that 10-foot deep hole is the priority my systems administration requirements are given relative to the rest of my responsibilities. I had plenty of other fish to fry for 10 months, including getting rid of our Innovative server, so this literally had to wait. But in October of 2015, I found a new document that provided me with the missing piece that I needed in order to be able to get going. I had a proof of concept server ready by December, and we rolled everything out publicly in September of 2016. I consider that the official public rollout because that is the date that I finally switched our DNS entry for the old Innovative server to the new Koha server. Why did we select Koha? The answer is, 2 answers actually, it's a dual answer, are alarmingly simple. Number one, it was what I got to work first. I'd actually gotten an Evergreen instance running on a home virtual machine back in 2012, and I thought, holy cow, this is complicated. Then in 2015, when I was at ALA, I went to the Evergreen developers, and I said, this is what I have. A handful of books, 300,000 electronic records, most of them from aggregators. Don't need this, 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 don't need this. You could use Evergreen, but that's probably too much for you. Why don't you give Koha some consideration? And that's what got me started down the Koha path. Why did we go unsupported? Again, the answer is alarmingly simple. The business school is cheap. We had exactly 141 bibliographic records to migrate. That's it. And I had already done all the work through trial and error using MarkEdit. So I knew that all I needed to do was get a server up and running and I could load those 141 records and then take it from there. But the options we were given at the time to do the migration were not really conducive to the amount of money, very, very little, that my employer was willing to spend. So if I was willing to do this, I was going to do this on my own. What did not help at all is the fact that we had basically gone into an unautomated state, and our librarians were using Summon for all of their searching. All of it. They didn't care that if you searched for 2 words and you got 1 million results without filters, that was fine with them. So when I finally got everything to a state and publicly rolled it out, they'd gone 18 months without using a catalog, if you will, of any sort. And for some reason, they weren't bothered by that. I was. But that again shows you, again, think of that 10-foot hole and think about where my systems administration skills were conceived and held in regard relative to everybody else, as they all did all of their reference work that I hate. So I've got that system running. It's been running 3 years now. I've had 2 very close calls with complete and total system failure. One in which the virtual disk disassociated itself with the virtual machine. That was frightening. We were down 2 weeks, but fortunately, since I don't circulate, my reference librarians don't use the thing, nobody noticed except me. Fixed that, then very recently, I tried to do a koha upgrade, and it broke something with the dependencies. And it said, error, you have unresolved dependencies that cannot be fixed, something, 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 something. I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to use the restoration documentation that I had written, but not really perfected a year earlier. So then I tried something unusual, and I did an operating system upgrade. The operating system upgrade fixed the dependency error, and all of a sudden, I was back in business. And I've done one of the incremental upgrades since then successfully, so I know that everything was okay. So I've really developed this skill set, but there's still plenty of things that I have no idea what to do. I've kind of pieced my way together through SQL, and can put together very basic reports and use the report library from time to time to get things that I need. JavaScript, I never learned JavaScript. I didn't ever think it was going to be important to me. So I have no idea. I look at JavaScript, I can kind of read it. Don't ask me to program in it though. jQuery, same thing. CSS, again. And finally, there are more esoteric things that are probably more prone to development, things like GitHub. I'm very disappointed. I'm going to miss George's presentation tomorrow about using GitHub for backups, because that might give me another mechanism in which I can back up data from my server and then restore it onto another server. Maybe. No? George is telling me no. Well, it was worth a thought, but I'm still going to be disappointed because I'd like to learn more about GitHub. Would we do it again? Would we pick koha as a system, and would we run it unsupported? For this question, there is no easy answer. Number one, if we hadn't had the collection destroyed, and I use the word destroyed on purpose here, we probably would still be with Innovative. Innovative met our needs. Yeah, they had a high bill, but our bill wasn't as much as any other libraries. It wasn't really breaking the bank. We were most satisfied with it, and we really had no reason to want to leave Innovative, even as they forced a lot of their customers onto their Sierra platform. If the collection hadn't been removed, destroyed, but we had still decided to go with koha, guess what? My systems administration skills and responsibilities wouldn't be in a 10-foot hole. If we had decided to go unsupported, I would have made sure that the responsibilities were up there at the top, which would have meant a lot of other things that I currently do, like reference, would hopefully fall by the wayside. One of the other things I do, which actually takes up most of my time, is contract management. I play our unofficial collection development manager, and I manage a $1.3 million budget for everything. Dealing with vendors and libraries, that takes up a lot of time. So those systems administration responsibilities would have been higher. They would have been held higher by others. And odds are the amount of time that it would have taken me to develop all the documentation I will now rely on if my system crashes would have been developed a whole lot earlier than 2.5 years into my actual go live date. At this point in time, and with the knowledge that I have now, though, yes, we actually would have done it again. I know, and you saw most of this today, you didn't see the data restoration. I can get a server up and running in around 45 minutes. It would then take me probably about a day and a half over standard 8-hour days to get all of my data restored. That's not great, but you know what? That's not too bad either. And so I feel much more comfortable in saying we would be able to go unsupported again. Certainly far more comfortable I did than when I first started. And we inched further and further away from a point of no return, that I would be incapable of restoring everything to in case things failed. So that's my story, and that's what I have to say. Let me go ahead and invite Fred up here to give his thoughts and his experiences on running unsupported.
Thank you. Let's see if I can
Yeah. It's there somewhere.
Okay. As I already said, my name is Fred King, medical librarian at Sir Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C. That black box is covering up an email address I don't use anymore. This is actually harvested from a presentation I gave in Reno in 2013. I'm just doing the first few slides. So, tell you a bit about the library. It has maybe 5,000 books, a lot of journals, bound journals, reference and reserve, and a couple of other special collections. Pretty much nobody uses it. And nobody uses the catalog because this is a medical library. All the literature is in journals, and those are mostly online. We have maybe 5 print journals left. Even now, I would like to, 6 years later, thank my wife Ann, who's listened to me talk about koha for about 7 years now. And she's put up with me. And when I said this in Reno, every single developer in the room nodded. Also, thanks for being so friendly and letting me ask dumb questions. So, let's start out with a few quotations. This isn't a quotation, but our old system, I can't tell you what it was, but I will tell you that it rhymed with horizon. When I got my first day or first week at work, I asked, who's the sysadmin of this? And they said, you are. Okay. I'd run a server. I'd never been a library sysadmin. I learned fast. It was not the easiest system to learn. And then suddenly they decided, oh, we're discontinuing this one and you have to go with a new one. And if we have monthly circulation high 2 figures, that was big. And it was costing us maybe a couple $100 per circulating book, which is not really cost effective. So I've been looking around at a few other systems for a while, stumbled across koha. I thought, okay, this might be helpful. At the 2013 conference, this was said a lot. Alone we can go faster, together we can go further. I actually tried to track down the origins of that, and it sort of disappeared into the mists of time. But the next one, but not always, that was with me. Our IT department has gotten much better over the years, but they're really good at some things like hospital records and data security and HIPAA. But we use stuff they've never heard of. Docline? What's that? What do you mean Arial, Odyssey? What do you mean you want to open up a port for Odyssey? No, we don't want to do that. Why do you want to do that? So I fell back on Grace Hopper. Better seek forgiveness than permission. I actually asked them about servers and advice for installing a system. I'm still waiting to hear from them. So I emailed the head of, I think it was graduate medical education, who was my boss, or she was the assistant VP for something. Said, okay, here's what I'm suggesting. It does this and this, and all we have to do is run a server, buy a server from geeks.com, which is what we ended up doing. And okay, it runs Ubuntu, Amazon, the Department of Defense on Linux. It's safe. So they said, yeah, go ahead. But one of the great advantages of koha was I could present them with an entirely working system on an old PC, saying, okay, this is what I've done already, and I just need some little better equipment to run it on. Because what I did was locate a live CD image from Vimal Kumar and put it in this PC and kept running it until I got it right. Which is why I've probably done more koha installations than all of you. But eventually, yeah, I got it right. And then I uploaded or exported the MARC records from her old system. And we didn't care about the circulation history or user records. This is a teaching hospital. People come and go. You might as well start afresh. And so we did. And one day, my new boss, who let me do this, said, okay, we're getting to your new ILS next week. koha, deal with it. No, she didn't say that. No one really noticed. Staff. No one noticed in the hospital. This is why I could get away with this, because a lot of people in the hospital don't even know there's a library, a library catalog. I wouldn't recommend this method for, let's say, a public library with 1,000 transactions per minute. But it worked for me. And after I did this, then I started learning Linux. I took a sysadmin course about a year after I became a sysadmin. This actually isn't, has nothing to do with koha, but it's an equalization. Okay, it's incentives. As you can tell, our old system was going away. So I just sat in my office. By that time, I'd somehow managed to get an office, also known as the server room, also known as our broom closet. And if you don't know anything, Google can actually be your friend. I'm sure most of you know the XKCD flowchart for computer people, solving non-computer people's problems. Google something, type it in. I actually had it in my old presentation. I forgot to do that. And for a lot of things, it works. Okay. Again, I wouldn't do this for running a huge production system in a consortium. For the same reason that I tell residents that if I find you using Wikipedia for patient care, I'm going to take your badge away. It's not necessarily reliable. But if I did something bad, all I had to do was restart the system with a new image. Which is why I say a little learning is a dangerous thing. Because I did it without knowing what I was doing. And in fact, I probably know less about koha and Linux than all the people in this room combined. You're allowed to laugh, you know, at my jokes. So it's easy enough that someone like me can do it. I had one HTML course, community college. I had one computer course in library school. This was almost pre-internet. We were using 286s and actually a couple of XTs. I've learned a lot since then. Sort of like the way I learned to swim. My father would throw me out into the middle of the lake and I'd swim back, except this time I didn't have to get out of the bag. So If I can do it, you can do it. That's all I have to say. That's my last slide.
So when Fred and I talked about doing this presentation, we both knew we ran unsupported systems, and we talked to each other on occasion, but what we didn't quite realize until maybe even just a few days ago was just how very similar our stories are, both in terms of the library environments we operate in, whether they're acknowledged or not, both in terms of the way we've kind of fallen into running a server like this, and how we resolve our problems, just like Fred. What the hell does this mean? I don't know. All right, maybe I'll start with the koha community, but usually I'll go to Google. That's how I taught myself the little bit I know about SQL from Google. Just about everything I found when I was getting started, I found Google. And it was really just kind of incredible to hear the similarities of our stories when we finally got together and were comparing those to what we were going to talk about. And we both like to think, I know I do, and I'm pretty sure Fred does, we consider our implementations, even though they might not necessarily be heavily used, and may not be considered what many would call standard installations, given what we have in place, I consider it a success. People can go to our catalog. It's very easy to find. They can search. They get results. They might not like the results, but they get results. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm serving up 300,000 electronic records that are mostly provided by Serial Solutions every month. Because part of my fail-safe for my server is always get a whole batch of records from Serial Solutions. Because then all I have to do is load that month, instead of going all the way back to the last time I got a full record set and load update. So I built a lot of fail-safes into my procedures. I'm pretty sure Fred has. Oh, maybe not.
No, I try to keep the updates outdated.
And one of the things I'm trying to do a better job of is keeping my documentation up to date. With 2 major releases every year, and every 2 years, usually a change in supported operating systems, I need to make sure that the documentation that I've written still remains up to date. And it had been about 2 years since I had written and reviewed everything. This is how you install the OS. This is how you install koha. This is how you restore your instance from a koha backup. And I did that. I was able to do that this summer. This summer was a slower summer for me for some reason. Not that I was complaining, because I had about 3 weeks to review all that documentation, edit it a little bit, make it a little bit cleaner, which is the result that you saw here, as well as clean up and refine my backup restoration document, which I had never, I had tried and I said, oh, this works. Oh, look, I'm busy again. Okay, this is going to have to wait. And I was able to do all of it. So it's, you know, it's been really good. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say on this subject.
I'd like to add one thing, which is really obvious to us, but this was fun. I really enjoyed doing it. It was a puzzle to figure out. I'm hopeless at crossword puzzles. I can't do Scrabble. Never mind Sudoku. But I enjoyed it. And if you have a mind for that kind of thing, or a desire or knack for it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So you can set up your own collection, right? Your home collection, which I'm going to touch on this afternoon, and why I haven't yet. But just enjoy yourself.
It's very easy with the documentation that's out there. Download Oracle Box and create a virtual machine on your own PC. Install koha on that. That's how I actually got started. The very first efforts I did in 2014 were on my home computer when I was working from home 20 hours a week because nobody wanted to deal with me at work. Would have those machines been abandoned? Sure they would have been, but they were virtual machines. And so once I got to a point of success, guess what I did? I took a snapshot. Fail, fail. Oh, guess what? I'll just go back to that snapshot. And I kept on building a skill set because of that. And Fred is right. For me, it was just like Fred, it really was a puzzle that required solving. It was an automation puzzle. I should be really good at automation puzzle. I managed a system for 17 years. This was a different kind of puzzle because the community that supports it is significantly different, much more opening, much more welcome, much less closed than the network of people that I had before. The Innovative User Group community was a fantastic community, but at the end of the day, there were certain things you always had to go for to innovate for. That is not true in this environment. And it's that type of support makes this type of puzzle, this type of activity more rewarding because you know that at some point, it may take you quite some time, but you should be able to figure out the puzzle all while building your knowledge at the same time.
Also, not sure if many of you have heard of the MedStar Authors Catalog, which I'm not going to do a presentation on, but what I did was take Medline records, change them to MARC records, upload them. Just go to medstarauthors.org, and again, I had to go in and tweak a few XSLT files for the general display and detailed display in OPEC. No one told me I couldn't, so went ahead and did it. And there's no vendor saying, no, mustn't do that. It's fun. Want to do something? You can.
And to further Fred's point, one of the things I have, I exported all of the data out of my pack before I shut it down for the last time. I have years worth of legacy financial data that I'm in the process, maybe this will be next summer's thing now that my documentation is up to date. I'm looking to import all of that data as legacy data. Right now, I've actually, even though I didn't bring the system live in 2016, because our activity is so small, we actually went all the way back to July 1st, 2014 for financial data, which was the start of a fiscal year. So I now have 5 complete years of data in my system, plus the 6th one, which is ongoing. But for some of the titles, I want to be able to go further back than that. And to me, that's my next great challenge. I've got all of this data. I can take that data and parse it in Excel. Now I'm going to try to figure out how I can use my SQL Workbench to edit the tables and add that data in after the fact. And who knows? I'm planning on doing a presentation not on that next year, but using that data, because right now my funds data and my acquisitions data is very boring because it's really just 2 codes. Back in the days of Innovative, we had like 60 codes, and that would make for a lot more interesting presentation for what I'm hoping to focus on. But you can always think of something to do, and the community is there to help you, and the online resources are infinite. And once you get your skill set developed, you know that you can start to say, oh, that's not going to be useful, that's not going to be useful, that's not going to be useful, and figure out what it is that you would be able to use to give you that final piece that you need to be able to successfully implement what it is you're hoping to do.
This is why he is the koha-US treasurer and I'm not.
I didn't take any financial data out of our old system. I didn't know how.
I've got it. Actually, I've got everything except patron data. I call it our legacy catalog. At one point in time, my plan was to, because I get asked about our formal book collection all the time, I was going to build a third instance. We have 2 instances of our catalog, the public-facing side, and I've got acquisitions running on its own instance, and I was going to create a third one that I was going to call it the legacy catalog. And loading the MARC part is easy. It's taking the item record data that I've got from our innovative system and figuring out how to get it properly into the 952 field so that it'll properly create items. Right now, people ask me for this data, and I open up literally a flat text file in MARC Edit that I've created, and literally do Control F to find the title that I'm looking for, and doing it that way. But I'd like to say, look at what I did. Here's my legacy catalog, and be able to refer to that instead of having to do what I'm doing right now. And I'm actually kind of surprised. Here we are, 5 years past the removal of that collection, and I still get occasional questions or have to look things up myself because I get a random phone call from a vendor that I haven't heard from in years. But yet I know we dealt with because I've been here for 27 years and I've got to look at financial data to find out, why am I suddenly getting this again? Who was the vendor originally? Why am I getting this? Why did we stop it? And I still need the data to be able to answer those questions. And restoring data like that is really a hope of mine for a number of reasons. Anything else, Fred?
Probably, but I won't think of it until this afternoon.
Well, we've got some time for questions. any questions at all, as Fred and I have kind of gone on stream of consciousness related to our implementations and what we hope to do in the future and our thoughts and goals, as well as the interesting paths we took to get to where we are today. Any questions at all?
Well, here's a question. Let's say a support company offered today to host you for free, provide you complete support for the rest of your life for your system. Would you take it?
You said the magic four-letter F word, and it's my favorite one, not the one people usually think of. You said free. Free for life? Quite honestly, and in my opinion, I'd be a fool to turn that down. Free for life? Absolutely. Because quite honestly, I now feel comfortable enough in my systems administration skills to know that I can do what I want just by creating my own koha server and keeping it on a virtual machine at home and utilizing it that way. And it can run completely independently of my professional one that I maintain for work.
Okay.
Same here, except I'm probably intending to do it for about 5 years and then finally give up. My last job evaluation, they said, means well.
Well, I guess maybe this is a good follow-up question. What are your plans for after you two retire, quit, die, whatever? You know, how do you feel about what's going to happen with this system once you're no longer there?
Actually, that's I put that in my slide. The notes were so big that I forgot about it. I fully predict that when I leave Kresge, whenever that happens to be, the server will leave with me. There might be attempts to keep it operational, and they will probably keep it operational until a point in time where it fails. I'll guarantee they won't upgrade it, even though I've given them the necessary documentation to upgrade the software, at least incrementally. Although now that I think about it, now that I use the release number in the package commands, I should include a command on how to change that number and relocate that. But I fully expect that when I leave, the system will go with me. And that really is kind of sad. You should have seen me when I shut down our innovative server for the last time. But for this, this is different to me because if I were leaving, guess what? I'm not getting paid to care about it anymore. So even though this was my brainchild, my doing, the entirety of my undertaking, it's nothing I really should be concerned about because I've made, I hope, the conscious decision to leave and leaving the system to fall to its own devices.
Good question, which is obviously shorthand for I don't know. I actually intend to stay at Washington Hospital until I'm too old and tired and sick and stupid to keep doing my job, which is going to be probably next month. My goal is to update our magic documentation book, so I'm not the only person who knows how to do a lot of this stuff. That makes me really nervous because remember, I live in DC. I drive down North Capitol Street in my little smart 4.2 with buses. I don't know. I want the system to live on after I retire, but clearly it's going to be a few weeks until I do that. So right now I don't have to worry about it. And I hope my boss is listening.
All the documentation that I've been writing was designed specifically so that anybody, literally anybody, could look at it and run the commands to run the server. I use different fonts. I say, this is exactly what you type. This is what you should get as a response. This is what this means in case you're interested. So the documentation would be there, but I just predict it would be ignored.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Anything from any developers who are going to harass me? No? What, did he leave?
Nick left the room. Nick left the room, and that's a shame because he got me every year
in 17 and last year in Portland, I found out more about Elasticsearch. And so I think I'm going to put together an instance of, on my development machine, that I'll turn on Elasticsearch and see what happens. And Micah gave some really good tips that I would never have thought of because I just don't know about that part of systems administration yet because it's so new, but certainly worth trying. And I say that because my reference librarians hate my system because of the searching. That's why they don't use it. And so with Elasticsearch will improve response times and improve search results. And I will note that I actually exported from my init pack all of the search indexes and how every single subfield and every marked tag was indexed. So I can very easily recreate that in Koha. Whether or not Elastic runs the same way and would retrieve the same types of results is very doubtful, but at least I can say the indexing rules as they are designed in the new system mirror exactly what they were in the old. Wow. Yeah. Oh, that was an Elasticsearch changer, wasn't it? That's another thing. Well, thank you for your attention this morning. I hope you found this presentation useful.
Thank you.